Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out on this very cold Sunday morning and spending your time on this presentation about how to integrate cows into Vedic culture, even here in the United States. I think you'll find the information informative and inspiring, and I hope that you will get involved in Goshalas and come out to visit our farms and see our cows. So usually when people come to visit, the first thing they want to know is, how did I get involved in Vedic culture? I was raised, my dad was an environmental educator, and I grew up in the woods running around with nature, a deep connection with nature and animals. Little wonder that as a teenager, I was really very consumed with worry about environmental issues and social justice issues. And thanks to the teachings of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who inspired George Harrison, I came to read the Sri Ishopanishad, and wherein it said, Isho Vasyam Idam Sarvam, and understanding that everything in the world, whether animate or inanimate, is owned and controlled by the Supreme Lord, and therefore we should only take our own quota because we should know to whom it belongs. So after I read the Bhagavad Gita, I went to Gitanagari farm. Srila Prabhupada had this plan to spread Vedic culture around the world, which included starting many temples, translating the Vedic literatures into many languages. And the unique thing that he did was he started farm communities. And the reason is that he wanted the presiding deities in the temples to have milk from protected cows. At Gitanagari, they were milking 25 cows and supplying milk to 3 city temples, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. And actually we wound up with a herd of 200 cows and oxen after breeding the cows for several years. And we had a 5-acre vegetable garden. We had 350 acres under cultivation. So used the oxen in various ways for food production, for bringing wood, for firewood. There was a sweep unit, a sweep power unit, where they generated electricity to cut the wood into pieces after they pulled it out of the forest. And we had also taken the oxen all up and down the East Coast to Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. to participate in the parades there. So that was a really wonderful experience, and I got to see cow protection on a really large scale. At least for this country, that's probably as large as it's ever gotten. The other component for me was the sustainability aspect. I was really touched by a culture that managed to get all of its needs, both food and energy, from one animal, the cow. Given lifetime protection in return for all of their service, so that was a gratitude and the lesson of ahimsa. And I thought to myself at that time, there's really lessons here that humanity can learn from this example. So after I left Gitanagari, I was still really committed to cow protection, and I wanted to keep cows in my life. What I did was, my family, we would go get milk from a local dairy farm. We wound up in Ithaca, New York. And every week we would go and fill up our jugs with milk. Cows too, those were Jersey cows. And we put a cow on layaway while we went and looked for land of our own. We were finally able to get the land. We brought Chintamani home. She was pregnant, and she surprised us with twins. And we named them Radhe and Sham. And then later, another family in our area had a cow named Bella Lakshmi. And they named her Bella, we named her Bella Lakshmi. And she, family cow, actually was shared by the whole neighborhood every week. And then later, another family in our area had a cow named Bella Lakshmi. And they named her Bella, we named her Bella Lakshmi. And she, family cow, actually was shared by the whole neighborhood every week. Every day somebody who knew would go and milk her. her family had to move away to New York City and they couldn't keep her. So they gave her to us, and she's been with us ever since. And then the last few cows that we got were named Shanti, and her babies Krishangi and Saranagati. A farmer who we knew called us up and said, Linda, I'm running low on hay, and I have this cow and I really love her, but I have to sell her. We just don't have enough feed. Is there any way that you could take her? Well, I can't afford to give her to you, but if you can buy her, you can have her, and I'd be really happy to have her go to a safe home. So we called up our friends from HSS and we asked if they could help us raise the money, and they did. Within about a half an hour, they had the money raised to save Shanti and her daughter, Krishangi, and her granddaughter, Saranagati. At our Goshala, we're in Belfast, New York, and it's just south of Niagara Falls, a barn with 20 acres and 2 houses, and another building that could be a visitor center or workshop kind of building. Because we live right next door to the HSS retreat center named Jagannath Dham, and because we're on the road to Niagara Falls, we get to see a lot of tourists from the Indian community. Typical visitors, parents are coming from India and they want to take them to see Niagara Falls. And they'll stop by to Jagannath Dham and to Govinda Goshala on the way. Get to participate in some farm activities like making butter, or our cow Chintamani. She's actually now 18 years old and she loves children. So when the kids will come and they'll brush her and pet her, and then she'll start dripping milk out of her udder. That's how much she loves the children, and she has this natural affection, and that's how she shows it, and it really affects the children a lot. Before the kids come to the farm, they really have no clue what cows have to do with their culture, and maybe they even got teased in school about cows and being cow worshippers, and they really have no answers for their American friends who just see cows as food. And it really makes an impression on them coming here, and they have a new outlook on their grandparents, actually. It gives them it's like a bond between generations that happens when they come here. It gives them a perspective that they never had before on their grandparents' life and beliefs. So some of the cool things that happen are, say, kids learn courage. And you'd think that courage and self-esteem, well, how do you learn those things in America these days? Now just imagine you're a little kid and you're trying to feed a giant goat or a cow 2 or 3 times the size of you when you're just a toddler. Now that takes courage. Those goats are anxious for that food, and you might think that they're going to chew you up. It feels like that to those little kids. And when they take the time and they learn to feed those goats and how to do it safely, without getting slobbered on, they feel so amazing, and it's really a great experience to see. So another practical life lesson I find is this common sense and leadership and managerial abilities. When you have a lot of things to move around, giant hay bales, and you have to move them from one place to another, or sawdust bedding, or you have to get cows water, or so many kinds of chores on the farm, you learn a lot about how to just be practical, stick to it, how to work with other people. And I can always tell, I do programs a lot for college students who will come in groups to visit Niagara Falls, and they'll come and do some work on the farm and help out. And I can always pick out the ones that have grown up on farms. You can see them immediately. They're the organizers. And everybody else will kind of hang back and not sure what to do, something that seems really obvious to me. And these kids can't quite gather what to do. And they wait, and the farm kids will come and tell them, come on, let's go do this. This is what you do. You take this, you take that, and they get them all organized. So another thing that's really interesting is charity. So cows can put culture into context, right? So charity. So I have a friend whose young son, who's 3 or 4 years old, grew up in India for a little while and just came back to the States. So his mom tells me what would happen is the little boy would sit by the window and he would wait for cows to come by. As soon as he saw a cow coming, he'd say, "Mom, quick, quick, go get some food. We need to give a roti to the cow. So the mom would get something from the kitchen, and they'd go outside together, and the mom would see that the cow was still way down the street, half a mile, and they would patiently, anxiously wait for the cow to come so they could feed it the roti. And now, when he is here in the States and he can't see cows regularly in his life, he's got a little cow bank that he gets, and anytime anybody drops some change out of their pocket, he will go and run to the cow bank and put the money in the cow bank, and knowing that they'll buy hay for the cows. So it's pretty hard to get kids to care about something outside of themselves, to have that sense of charity. But here, charity is learned joyously through cows. And another way that cows put culture into context, right? So I had a kid one time was in helping me in the garden, planting the vegetables. And she could see that there was places where the ground was soft and friable and black and crumbly between her fingers. And there were other places that were really hard and lumpy and just you could hardly get the shovel in. And she was asking me, Linda, what is going on? Why is it in one place, it's like this, and another place it's really soft? And I said, well, this is where we put the compost last year. And the worms have come and they've done their magic and the compost has done its magic. And I said to her, now do you see why Lakshmi lives in the dung of the cow? And she thought about it for a minute and thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I said, this isn't, these aren't superstitions. This is a poetic way that the sages of India would talk about real life phenomenon. And it's true.